Hi everyone, Dr. L here, coming to you from very snowy Spring Hill. I hope you are all safe and warm. You may see Samwise's head bob up and down here. He's my golden, and every time I'm recording, without fail, he thinks it's time to come and get pets. So he's right here. Yeah, you can actually see him, I think. Penny is right next to him on the floor, cuddled up. She is a little camera shy, so you probably won't see her too much. I wanted to take some time and just record a couple of things for you so that you can have an idea of where we're going to go with the course this semester. Some of you may be anxious because, school's been canceled for this whole week, and so I thought I might calm your nerves a little bit by posting a video. So keep in mind that nothing is due this week because we haven't officially started due to the weather, but I want to give you the opportunity to maybe start working on some things if you choose. Completely optional, and things will be due next week for points. Okay, so a little bit about me. My name is Dr. Mary Leosin, and I have been teaching for 16 years now. My first area of expertise is actually psychology. So even though you have me for English, and that is what my doctorate is in, it's not really where I started teaching in higher ed. So I started out in psych. I'm really passionate about mental health and wellness. So you will likely see a lot of that pulled into our class time together. While I was teaching in the psych classroom, I realized that many of my students didn't have the skills to write effectively or to research effectively or to cite. And so I thought, okay, I love learning. I think I'm going to go back to school and just maybe study English, and maybe I will integrate some of that into my psych classes. Well, I loved it so much that I decided I wanted to study English and teach it as a completely different discipline. So you'll see some crossover sometimes. I pull a lot of things about mental health and supporting just your wellness into our English courses. So hopefully that's helpful to you. My doctorate is in English pedagogy, which basically means the teaching of English and literature. I also have an MFA in creative writing. I'm a fiction writer, mostly ghost stories or in the horror genre. You can see a picture of my novel, The Butterfly Circle, up on the screen here. Okay, so please take some time and review the syllabus, which is up on D2L. You can do that this week, you can do that next week. I just want to make sure that if you have questions that you're bringing them up to me so that I can answer them for you so that you're not frustrated or wondering about things. We're going to be using two main textbooks for our course. Both of them are free. They're called OERs, or online educational or open educational resources. And so you see the links for them down here at the bottom of the screen. And I'll be, hopefully, and I'll try to include these links with homework reminder slides, and they're on the syllabus as well. So it wouldn't be a bad idea to just go ahead and bookmark those, even if it's just for the semester. Although I will say there's a lot of helpful information in these texts. So you may find that you want to keep the bookmarks there beyond our time together. All right, so one of the biggest questions I get is, how do I earn an A in this course? I'm going to have to move my video around a little bit so that you can see everything on the screen. And Sam is being loud down here. Sorry about that if it's distracting. Okay, so you earn points by being present in class, showing up, participating. While I'm on that subject, I want to make sure that you understand that attendance in person is required for this course. I've had students in the past that think, oh, well, I'll just attend a couple classes and I'll just make sure that I turn everything in. Please do not adopt that attitude, because if that is where you're thinking that you want to go with this, it's not going to help you and you're likely not going to pass the course. So attendance in person is critical to your success. We do have online courses where you can do all of the work online. I actually teach those too, but that's not how this particular section is set up. So really keep that in mind. If you feel like you need to make a change, do that within the first week. That's what I would highly recommend, or maybe week 2, especially since, the weather event. So when you are in class, you will participate and you will engage in what we call free writes, where I'll put up a prompt on the screen and then you will have, your choice about how you want to respond to it. You can handwrite it, you can type it in a Word document or a Google Doc, however you're comfortable doing it. And it's really just getting you comfortable with this idea of writing for the sake of writing. You will have a couple of other types of assessments throughout. Some are called research notebooks, and they're just kind of like formal prompts, mostly to make sure that you're doing the reading. And I realize that, textbook reading is not the funnest thing to do in the world, but it's really important. And I wouldn't say you have to read every single word, from beginning of the chapter to the end of the chapter. You can use different strategies to kind of make sure that you're focusing on what you think you need by looking at headings and looking at the images, looking at graphs, and then zooming in on those particular subjects that you really feel like you need a refresher, or you maybe have never heard some of the terminology used before. Okay, so you'll be getting specific instructions on those throughout the course. So the first line here, we have 150 points throughout the course. Second line, we have 175 points throughout the course. Now we get into some more specific assignments. So the next thing that you see is single source analyses. And what this is asking you to do is select a credible source and really kind of dig into it. Read it with a lot of attention, be able to paraphrase or summarize what's in that source, respond to it, think about the degree of credibility, like, who wrote it? Should we be listening to what they're saying? Or maybe should we be more critical and asking questions and looking at their background and trying to understand what it is they're trying to accomplish with the piece that you choose to analyze. The synthesis assignment is a skill that is incredibly important, and it's something that I've noticed even in my doctoral studies, my master's level studies. A lot of my peers in those programs hadn't mastered this skill yet. So it's something that you don't necessarily have to 100% master by the end of this course, but you should at least kind of like dip your toe into the realm of synthesis so that you start to understand what it means and how to do it. Okay, so we're going to have, it's a lower stakes assignment, because it is a skill that really takes development over time, okay? But I'm going to give you kind of the theoretical foundation for what it is, why it's important, and some strategies for how to do it, and we'll work on that together in class. The next assignment is a bigger project, the argumentative project. So this is where you will choose a stance on an arguable topic. Okay, and when I say arguable, it means that somebody should logically or reasonably be able to disagree with you. So, let's say that you think that mental health is important. Well, very few people are going to disagree that mental health is important. But if you get more specific about maybe a particular treatment, or that you feel that education about mental health should be more integrated into high schools, that is arguable, because maybe somebody agrees that it's important, but they disagree that it belongs in schools, or they disagree that it should start in high school and they think maybe it should start earlier. So we'll have, lots of time to talk about this in class and choosing an appropriate topic, but I really want you to pick something that you care about, something that you're passionate about, or something that you're curious about, because it's so much easier to do a project and to write about something when you're invested. I think one of the hardest times I had in writing any paper or doing any project is if I was assigned a topic that I just didn't care about. So that is why I don't do that as an instructor. I really want you to be able to pick what it is. There may be some topics that you might want to avoid, but we'll talk about that in class. And if you really come to me with a compelling reason for why you really want to investigate something, the likelihood is that I'm going to support you in that, because I want you to be invested. And at the end of the day, this is about you, right? I'm designing these experiences to help you. And if you're not growing, if you're not interested, then I need to adapt and adjust. So I'm going to be looking for your feedback throughout the course to make sure that you're feeling like we're heading in the right direction. And what I'm doing is supporting you. And if it isn't, I'm sorry, that was probably really loud. I just got an email. I need to know how to adjust for you, okay? The next thing up, I actually want to mention as well that we will be focused not only on writing, I mean, that's one of the major outcomes for our course, but also on presentation skills, oral presentation, multimodal presentation, which basically means more than one mode. So if we think about writing, like handwriting or typing, that is one way of expressing yourself. But there's so many other ways. Talking, physical gestures, integrating images and sound, Okay, so we're going to talk about what that can look like, and it's something that I don't intend it to be intimidating. Actually, I intend it to be exciting because there's a lot of creative potential there for you to express in various ways. So we'll talk about that, when we get closer to the due date. But you're going to practice those skills in this project that we're talking about right now, the argumentative project, and then you're going to build. Again, I'm sorry, that's probably pretty loud. You're going to build on those skills with the next project, the problem solution project. So here you will be investigating a subject that you're curious about, a problem in your community, whether you view your community as your immediate physical surroundings, your hometown, MTSU campus, the United States, another country, the online environment, maybe a group that you're involved with that's about a particular interest or hobby or sports. So you're going to pick the area that you want to examine for this. And when it really has to be centered on a problem, because you're going to be tasked with coming up with 3 potential solutions to the problem. Not all of these 3 solutions need to work necessarily. You need to choose one at the end of the day and focus on that and advocate for why you think that's the best solution. But you will be exploring 3 potentials for the first part of the project, and then really selecting one and advocating for it, and then trying to get other people on board with your solution. Okay, so this is a different type of argument. It's more like advocacy rather than looking at a strict argument and then the opposition. So this is kind of an advanced argumentative skill. With this project, you will be writing a paper, and you will also be creating a multimodal artifact that can be done either individually by yourself, with a partner, or with a small group. So I'm going to encourage you, as we're getting to know each other in class, to really think about what you're passionate about and what you care about, and then listen to the other people in the class and see who you have things in common with. Then be aware of your own personality and how you prefer to work. Some of us, we're just more individual and independent, and we like to work alone. Others, we look for that camaraderie and the collaboration. So no matter what you choose, there will be some degree of working with others. So let's say even if you choose to do your own individual project, the likelihood is that there will be a few other people in the class that also want to do their individual projects, but then you'll become like a support group for each other as you kind of work on your own individual interests. Okay? So I'll be giving you much more information about these things as we get closer to the due date. Finally, one thing to know is that I'm going to have you submit a portfolio at the end of the semester. And you're going to select some of the pieces that you feel most proud of, that you think demonstrate your skills as far as meeting the outcomes of the course, and then write a short reflection. I'm going to move my video so you can see the points here. Write a short reflection about how you feel you've grown in the class. Okay. So this is hopefully giving you an idea of where we're going this semester and the different kinds of things to be paying attention to. Hopefully, you maybe already have some ideas in mind about the types of subjects that you want to investigate, and I'm looking forward to hearing about those things and what your interests and passions are. Okay, so next thing up, inevitably in a writing class, sometimes students share things that are of a personal nature. And I love that about being a teacher. I love, being able to support you and understand the different things that you're being challenged with. But I want you to know on the front end, and this is really important, that I am a responsible reporter. And what this means is that if you tell me something that makes me worry about your safety, or that, somebody might be hurting you, or you're feeling, having, thoughts of suicidal ideation or anything where I feel you're at risk or even a threat to others, it is my legal responsibility to tell the university. And the point there is not to make you uncomfortable. It's not to discourage you from coming to me. But I need you to know that, because I would never want you to be surprised or caught off guard with the fact that I have to let the university know. So the point in doing this is so that the university can then reach out to you probably over email, and just offer you some resources and make sure that you have what it is you need to be healthy and happy and safe. Okay, late policy. So this is the formal late policy in my course. However, and I want to make sure that you understand this, I am always going to try my best to work with you. If you're going through something difficult, if your computer breaks, if your car breaks down, if you lose a loved one, I want to be able to work with you, okay? So this policy exists for students who tend to take advantage of the willingness to work with you. And that doesn't happen very often, but this is kind of protecting all of us from getting off course with regard to time management and things. Because what can happen very easily is that if you get too far behind, it's a slippery slope. You know, if you're spending your time trying to catch up, then you're missing the projects that we're currently working on. And then you can become really overwhelmed, and that can lead to really not good things, okay? So this is designed to be something that can be enforced down the road if I feel like you're heading in a bad direction with regard to time management. And, you know, time management, it's a skill. And I completely understand that college students, because I was a college student for a very long time, it takes time to figure out how your personality works with regard to figuring out, you know, how you want to split up your time and how you're going to accomplish certain things and how you're going to manage multiple classes and maybe juggle other responsibilities like work. Or, you know, maybe you're on a sports team, or you have other responsibilities at home, or maybe you're a parent and you have children or siblings that you're taking care of, or an elderly parent. So I absolutely want to work with you. So what I would suggest is if you find yourself in a circumstance where there is a deadline creeping up and you know you're not going to be able to make that deadline, reach out to me. Let me know what's going on and what you need from me. Now, you may not want to share the personal details of what you have going on, and that's okay. If you can just share enough with me to let me know that there's a serious situation going on, and, you know, we'll try to figure out a timeline that works for you and that also will work with how the class needs to progress. Okay. So let me know, please, like just communicate with me. Let me know what it is you're needing. So I am a huge fan of technology, even with all of its challenges and the hiccups that it can cause sometimes. So if you work well with a laptop or with any type of electronic device, you are welcome to bring that to class. I encourage you to bring it to class. If you're more comfortable with, you know, pen and paper, that's cool too. I will say though that in this English 2, Composition 2, it's really important that we are utilizing D2L. So I'm going to push gently for you to be submitting things on D2L. And I realize the first week or two might be a challenge if you're not used to using the system, but it's critical that to protect all of us that we're using D2L. It makes it easier for me to keep track of grades and who's submitted what, when, and where. And it protects you because let's say you think you submitted something and then you can go back and check, did I actually do that? And you can see if there's something there or not. Okay, so know that I'm going to expect you to do that, but I also understand there can be a learning curve. Okay, so communicate with me and let me know what it is you need. Okay, so I am going to review very quickly one of the assignments that's going to be due next week. So this won't be due, originally it was going to be due the first day of week 2, but I'm going to push it to the second day of week 2, which for our class is Thursday. You may want to get a head start on working on this, you know, during this downtime. That's up to you. This is not required this week, but I want you to know that it's coming up. So in my psychology classes years ago, one of the things I would do is have students choose a box, like a just empty shoe box or cereal box or some type of box. And I would have them design the outside of the box and the inside of the box. So that's kind of where the idea for this was born in my psych classes. And so when we pull this into our space with English, and particularly the second of the first year writing courses that focuses on argument, I want to invite you to think about assumptions that people have made about you, good ones, bad ones, neutral ones, and then how that compares to the reality of who you are. Because what happens when we think about argument is that we bring our lives, our mental schemas, our past experiences to the table. And so we are inherently biased by the stuff we've been through. And sometimes that can be really helpful. And other times it can be a little bit of a roadblock because we may not see the whole picture. And when we're thinking about argument, we need to be aware of both things. First of all, our experiences and our bias in a good way, like maybe we feel really strongly about something. But then also sometimes that can create a blind spot where we're not paying attention to or valuing somebody who disagrees with us. And you can have really strong reasons for why you don't agree with somebody else. But in argumentative writing and composing argumentative, like let's say you're in a debate or you're creating a video or a podcast or something, the challenge for this class, one of the outcomes, is to see the opposing perspective, to recognize it, to be able to articulate it, not agree with it. You don't have to agree with it at all. But you should at least be able to understand where somebody else is coming from and their rationale. Okay, so that's part of why we're thinking about this from a more personal perspective. So you may do this project with a box if you would like, but if you would prefer to use electronic slides or some other form for expressing this, I'm okay with that. I love creativity. So I'm going to read the directions as they are, but know that it doesn't have to be a box. It can be 2 different slides. And there's actually a third element that I'm going to talk about in a minute too. So the purpose of this project is twofold. First, it is a way for you to introduce yourself to the class on your own terms. Second, it sets the tone for thinking about perceptions and critical thinking, 2 things we will be very focused on this semester. In order to write clearly, you need to think clearly. You'll be asked to design a visual representation of A, how you have been misjudged or misunderstood in the past, assumptions people have made about you, and B, who you are authentically, who you are for real. So on the outside of the box or on slide 1, tell us how you have been misjudged or misunderstood in the past. You don't have to share anything that you're uncomfortable sharing. This is an invitation, so you decide what you want to share with us and what you don't. Then on the inside of the box or the second slide, tell us the truth that you want us to see. Tell us who you are authentically, for real. And again, be aware of your comfort zone and what you want to share and what you don't want to share. And then the last thing I'm going to ask you to do is to develop some type of expression for the things that you care about. And we'll call this an inspiration page or slide or folder, however you want it to show up. The idea is for you to really think about what inspires you and to communicate it with the class. This way we know who you are, what you're passionate about, but also it gives you the opportunity to see who you might have things in common with. And, somebody else might mention something that you didn't mention in this project, but that you really do care about. And it gives us a way to start talking about these things, okay? So with that in mind, I'm going to share with you how I would do this project. All right, so I'm running out of room. Okay, hopefully you can see pretty much everything on the screen here. So ways that I have been misjudged or misunderstood. So I have a quote on here that says, people who judged her by looks alone missed her completely. And so, at different points in my life, there are times when I've been really confident and times that I've not been confident. In middle school, growing up, I was overweight, and it was very frustrating because many of my friends were just naturally thin, and I was never that type of body ever. I could just look at a cookie and I would gain 5 pounds. So when I got to high school, I really learned about nutrition. I got very passionate about nutrition, actually, and working out, which I still do. I work out 6 days a week. I learned to love moving. But in high school, then people made the assumption that it was easy for me, and I was one of those people that didn't have to work for it, which is absolutely not the case. And it was a big life lesson and learning curve for me. Today, a lot of people assume that because I walk around with a smile on my face, and I am optimistic and upbeat, but don't make the mistake of thinking that I've had an easy life, because it's absolutely not the case. And I can be having a very bad day actually and walk around with a smile, because I know that smiling actually can lead to positive results in the brain, which helps your overall wellness and health. So it's easy, I think, to judge a book by its cover, which is why we're doing this project actually, because we don't deserve that. None of us deserve that. Yeah, so I have just like pictures of happy, easy life. And I think sometimes when we're only looking on social media that we can project that without meaning to necessarily, but it's not the truth for any of us. We all have stuff that we go through. So my second slide shows more of the truth. Okay, let me just, hard to move this around that you can see. Okay, so I'll put my video up here. So tell us about you authentically. Okay, so now you know what that says. Now you can see everything. So I was bullied when I was younger, in middle school particularly, because of being, and I was probably only 5 or 10 pounds overweight. But you know, kids can be cruel, especially girls in like middle school. But what I really learned from that was to choose my friends carefully and to really put my focus on my own wellness. I actually was a very young single mom. I got pregnant at 19. I had my daughter at 20. And in the 1990s, that was not the norm, especially growing up in a Catholic household. In my circles, that was not a norm. Today, there's a lot more acceptance for that, and I'm so glad for that, because it definitely felt isolating. So I am 49 now. My daughter, Corinne, she's down here. This is actually a couple years old, this picture. She's 28 now, and she's actually a mom herself. And it was a very challenging experience for me, but she's one of the most important things in my life and one of the best things that ever happened to me. I was with her dad for 20 years, and that was a really difficult relationship, and it was difficult to realize I needed to end that relationship. And so that was a challenge. But then the second best thing in my life happened, and I met my current husband, and he has been an unbelievable gift to me. Another difficult thing for me to learn was growing up in my house, my mom was allergic to everything. So we had cats for like a year and then had to get rid of them. I always wanted a dog, couldn't have dogs. And now I have dogs. I have learned so much from loving animals and taking care of animals. One of the things I did get that's a positive out of my first marriage was he is a humane agent and worked with animal welfare. And I got to really understand that whole advocacy world for animals. And this is Woody down here. He was a special needs dog. He was a cruelty case, meaning my first husband actually had to take him into custody because he was being mistreated. He had 2 broken front legs that were never treated. He was only 6 weeks old, and the people that had him did not get him vet care, and they were only feeding him corn. They weren't feeding him anything healthy for puppies. So I actually took him in as a foster, and I just fell in love with this beautiful little dog. But he always had 2 crooked front legs. He was blind in one eye. He was going deaf. He had a thyroid that didn't work anymore, but he lived until 15 years old, and he had a happy, wonderful life after that experience. But losing him was one of the most painful things I've ever been through, actually, which I didn't anticipate. I knew it was going to be difficult. I didn't know it was going to be that difficult. And so after he passed, I got Sam, my golden now. So this is a picture of Samwise as a puppy. My husband called him a little meatball. And I continue to learn from my dogs. They teach me patience. And then I have a quote on here that says, "True happiness involves the full use of one's power and talents." So some people, when they meet me, assume that I grew up in a very privileged environment. And I had a really combined experience, actually. I did go to a private Catholic school until 8th grade. And in some ways, certainly, that's privilege. In other ways, though, so I was the kid that was on the scholarship, and my parents actually had to do the music for Mass in order for me to continue to attend school. So a lot of the people there had money and I did not have money. They had the newest everything. I did not. I had, hand-me-downs and shoes that didn't fit properly and all that stuff. And so, I learned very early on to be humble, to be kind, to work really hard, and just to appreciate everything that you have in life and to do your best to help others. Okay, the next thing I want to share with you is inspiration. So I would love for you to think about what you're passionate about, because really that should fuel your projects in this class, okay? So I am passionate about helping others. My soul gets fed from helping others, and most of the time that happens in the classroom or on the campus. Not always, sometimes it happens in writing mentorships, and just like being there for other people. I have a very close group of friends, and even though many of them are not here in Tennessee, I speak to them every day, every other day, and we are just emotional supports for each other. I am passionate about psychology and mental wellness. I feel that there needs to be a lot more education about it and a lot more advocacy about it and openness, continuing to eliminate the stigma for mental health issues and really a lot more open discussions and support for that type of thing. I'm passionate about storytelling in any way, shape, or form, especially creative writing, but I also love digital stories and photography and music. I grew up on the stage singing and dancing. My whole family is musical and entertainment. So I'm very passionate about storytelling, just in any way, shape, or form. And then finally, animal welfare, which I already talked to you about. So I can't wait to meet you all in person, or some of you I know, you're returning to my class, and I'm so grateful to have you again. You're going to just really enjoy each other's company, and I just want to continue to support you on your journey to write better and communicate better. And even though, I know many of you, writing is not your thing, it's not your top priority, and I get that. I want you to center whatever it is you're passionate about, your top priority, and just let what we're doing in class support that. I can't wait to see you all. Stay safe, stay warm, and I will see you next week.